Hello, friends, and welcome to the Spooky Chris podcast. My name is Chris Ringler. I am your aforementioned Spooky Chris. It's lovely to be back and lovely to be with you. I saw a YouTube video today. Algorithms are a funny thing. Like the things that that kind of offers you, that they're like, hey, you might be into this. So the algorithm, looking at stuff that was in kind of the pseudo feed there, like things you may be interested in. And lo and behold, I was interested in one of them because it came up as a video for, and I'm going to say it how me and my friends would always call it, but it's probably called the name that I heard it. We would call it the PXL 2000. Maybe it was the Pixel 2000. I believe it was from Fisher-Price. And it was video kind of like delving into that old technology. So for those who may not know, and most of you probably don't, the PXL 2000 / Pixel 2000 was a toy, quote unquote, camcorder. And you would, it was set up, I mean, if you imagine it, so it was mix a modern or a 90s kind of a video camera with a tape deck, an old 80s tape deck. And that's kind of what it was like. So it held it with one hand, which was kind of novel because, my family had gotten a camcorder and I would, it was a shoulder one. So, you'd throw it on your shoulder and use it, and you could use it obviously one-handed. But those are big guys. This was a small thing. You'd put it in kind of one hand, had a trigger, and like kind of a place you put your hand in, and it had, had the front so you could shoot out of, and then it had kind of controls like a cassette tape player. And the novel thing about this was that it shot up to 5 minutes of video on cassette tapes, which just, still blows my mind. They were black and white, and it still feels like witchcraft. My friend had gotten one, and they came out in 89, I think is what the video said. So it sounds about right, about what the time was, is around there. And my friend had gotten one, his family, but basically it was like him. And we were just fascinated. And we started, this was when we started to make movies. That was when I got into movie making. As a kid, I would have been, I'd have been in high school. So like I say, it's 89, 90. So I'd have been around high school. In that range, maybe it might have been middle school still, but it was kind of like middle school into high school. I'd have to do some math, man, and I just don't got it in me. But it was super cool, and we made a handful of these movies, which are heartbreakingly lost. And I don't know. It's one of those things like I thought I lent it to somebody, and I can't remember if they kept it or if, God help me, I erased it, which is possible because I had the compilation kind of on a VHS tape, and that was in an era when, you would hook your VHS, like your VHS camera, your camcorder, hook it up to a VCR and stuff, and you would rip movies that way. That's how I did it. As I'd play them through the camera and then record on a VCR. So, it was like, you're like a fiend for tapes and for space, so you can record these movies, so you can kind of have your own home video library back in the day. So that's possible. It's possible that I unfortunately recorded over it. Life is life. But however it works out, those movies are gone. But we made a handful of them, and it was super fun. It was like it was the perfect tool for learning how to make movies. And, phones are great, modern phones and stuff. Like the things you can do with them are incredible. Like you can download filters and all these special apps and stuff to shoot movies So it looks like it's on VHS. So it looks like it's Super 8. So it looks like it's, modern 4K, blah, 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 like whatever you want. And shoot, there's even, you can buy sound effect. Like everything is at it's within arm's, reach. Like sound effects, digital effects, backgrounds. You could overdub, like all these crazy things. I would never have imagined as a kid the things you can do now. It just blows my mind. But back then, this was like a great kind of a crash course film school. You had to be very efficient in how you shot. We shot everything. I mean, we did everything. Like we kind of came up with an idea, but they were silent movies. They were, he somehow, he had music, and what he did is he played music. So it must have, yeah, because I remember he would like play a cassette tape, my friend, because we used the intro for a couple songs off of Garage Days from Metallica, which some of those have just great like lead-ins that were great for the movies we made. The first one was Sam Hain's, saw Win, but Sam Hain, and it was about I was a kid in a house that was haunted. But no, it was such a great tool because you had to like be real efficient. We would shoot scene by scene. There was no editing involved. It was just you shot it scene by scene by scene. You had to keep in mind that you have X amount of minutes, which it's longer. 5 minutes is longer than you think when you're doing something like this. It's just you are cutting out all the BS. Basically, you're cutting out all of the needless dialogue and all of the like artsy shots that take up a lot of time. You are getting right to the point. They are not even necessarily short stories. They are very, very short, very like micro stories. They're like very immediate. And my friend figured out. He wired a hammer to like some fishing string to a hammer, so it looked like it was floating in the air, and he had like fishing string around like the handle of a drawer, so it opened. And I mean, if I looked at it today, obviously, I'm sure you see the string and this and that, but like at the time, it was great. It was like super interesting. It was a great way to shoot. We did a zombie movie where we used the classic chocolate syrup as blood, and I remember just chugging so much chocolate syrup because I was a zombie at one point. I made a handful of these movies, and it was great. And it just really, it was the perfect thing for a sleepover, is you would kind of come up with a concept, and you just kind of put it together to do it. It's just really cool. And we made a handful of those movies, and then The Bug Bit Me. And my parents, and I don't even know how this happened, like my parents got a video camera, a year or two after that. And I'm sure it was for the family, quote unquote, but I was the only one that used it. And we just shot everything. We made a dance party, like video, and it was us like with a boombox outside, and like we plugged in a lamp from my room and had it shining on the house at night, and we're dancing to music. And it was being silly. But that's the kind of stuff we would do. We started to stretch ourselves, and we made these, like, I want to say 2 or 3 movies, the quote-unquote Travolta trilogy, because the main character was named Travolta. And we made stuff that, looking back, very, very offensive. I am shamed at some of the stuff we made. That it's just like, it's stuff that a teenage kid, where you don't think of anything other than like the gag or the immediacy of it. You don't think of like, oh, well, this is offensive. This is hurtful towards someone, whatever. So we definitely did stuff that I'm not long-term like proud of the content per se. And it's not as bad as it sounds, but you look back and it's like, that's kind of rough. But we did those, and it was all improv. We only did improv stuff. And it was me and my friend, and we were gangsters, and this kid was like just a dopey kid that we would like torment. And then we did Travolta's song, and then Travolta Unbound, which was like the second one. It seems like we did a third one too, but like again, and they were so long because it was me and my friend riffing. It was just me and him mainly, dressed up like wannabe gangsters. My dad had leather jackets from the 70s. We threw those on. We were like, hey, what's going on over here? Hey, doing like fake New York accents. He was Johnny Brooklyn. I was, Jimmy St. Louis or something. I can't remember. Charlie St. Louis, maybe. Charlie, because yeah, and everything was us like vomiting back bits and pieces of Martin Scorsese movies. Like Charlie was from Mean Streets. Charlie, hey. And so we were just, all of our influences were on full display, and we were just obsessed with Scorsese and his gritty crime dramas at the time. So it was just us vomiting that stuff, and we were just riffing on like, talking, like, hey, what's going on? Oh no, what's going on with me? Hey, oh, and just that kind of stuff. And then our friend, who was never really clued into what was really going on, would be like, hey, everybody, rah, 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 and like would have a silly, weird voice that we didn't even know why he was doing this weird voice. It was just like, the character he crafted was just, I can't even tell you where it came from. It was very weird. But yeah, we made those. We made like some with those characters, like in a kung fu movie. We did just a handful of just weird. We did like anthology, like a comedy anthology. I'm trying to think of what else, like just really weird stuff. Like we'd involve our friends from time to time. We were in a movie from a friend of ours. Her friend made movies, and we were in his movie as those characters dead. Like they ran into trouble and got taken out. It all kind of culminated into us trying to make a legit movie. I had signed up for like I'd seen an article in the paper, and it was about there was a horror film class going to be taught at the local community college. And I was a senior in high school. I was like, oh my gosh, I need this. And so I looked into it, and I had to get permission from the school and this and that, and I had to go in and do an entrance exam thing. But I was able to take the class, and so I took the class, and it was just watching horror movies and learning about them and stuff. And it was really great, just really really foundational. And for the final project, you could do a paper or a short film, and I was like, we got this. So my friend wrote the script. We were going to do this movie. We shot the movie. We shot like, it's one of my other stories I've told. We shot this during the time that Leslie Ellen Williams, a serial killer in mid-Michigan, was active. And we almost, in scouting locations, almost found the two of the girls that he had left, which would have been terrifying. And it was believed that he may have followed one of our actresses home, because like she was followed home one night by a strange van that like followed her for a while, and the man drove a van and he was in the area and blah blah blah. Who knows? It makes a great story, and it was a great time making that movie. We made it over like we did it, and then did it over a period of time. And then, when it was due, for Christmas that year, my parents had gotten me an editing bay kind of a thing that I had no idea how to use. We had a new friend that was sure he could figure out how to do it, to edit this thing together. And he went out of town, and I missed my date and failed the class. Womp, womp, womp. Later on, I retook it when I was in college. I retook it then the following fall, I think, and went through the whole thing again. And actually, finally, we edited it, put it together, and submitted it, and blah blah blah. I don't remember what I got, but I still have that film. I have all of the footage, and it was an incredible project. I made I made a friend that was one of my closest friends for many years. Like, again, a foundational friend that was really a big part of my life. Both these two were like the two sides of my soul back then. And it was just incredible. And I guess all of this is to say is just for me, it was, and since then I have finally made a couple of my short films as a full adult, and I have two others written. I have since tried to keep, again, I've told these stories in past podcasts. My first one was, I got halfway through and I had to recast it and reshoot, because there was this, where I was shooting it, like it was too much bleed over from the highway. It was a woods movie. So I had to reshoot the thing, and I reached a point, deep into it, and I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. This is just, I don't think this is a thing that I'm meant to do. But I felt a responsibility because people had, put their heart and their time into this. They had worked with me as actors and stuff. And I just felt it was a betrayal kind of, to not see it through. And especially having been involved in a movie like this, a couple of years ago, where I shot stuff. I ran camera on an episode, a couple episodes of it. I ran camera for a chunk of it. I did special effect for it. I wrote one of the segments of the anthology this person was doing, and then they just kind of flaked and never put it together. And there was a ton of people involved in that one, and it was much more legit. And I still harbor a lot of frustration towards that. So I just felt like for me back then, it was a bit of betrayal. So we finished the movie, and since I made it, it was like there's so many characters in it. I'm like, I need to dial it back for my second one. And the second one was like 2 characters, me and another person. It was like as simple as could be. Essentially, it was focused on one character, and then I'm in it as the bad, like the monster, and I was in the other one as a monster as well. But discovering filmmaking as a kid and discovering in a way that worked for us was so great. And I do like that kids with, I have a lot of issues with stuff that goes up on social media and in TikTok and the trends and this and that. But I will say, in a past episode, I had been speaking with director Layla Bird Revolt, and like just the idea of what these kids can do with like their phones, and like they're learning how to make these movies and stuff, and putting them on TikTok and putting them on Instagram, putting them whatever. And you can do so much with your phone. I think it's having something that's an official, like it is a filmmaking device, like, or if it's a camera that does photos, and I think it feels more real. But you gotta start somewhere, and for kids today, like that's their Pixel 2000. Is they can just whip their phone out and they can shoot stuff, and there's a camera on it, and then you can get all these accessories and stuff and put filters on it, blah blah blah. And I just, it's interesting how many budding filmmakers there are. Back to, again, when I was a kid, like people were making movies on Super 8. Like if you follow filmmakers and stuff, you'll see like the generations, and like oh yeah, we shot on Super 8, and then we shot on handy cams and VHS and blah blah. So where there's a will, there's a way. There's always kind of a way to figure it out. But is it back then that was such a great way to discover this stuff? And for me, that kind of stuff, it's figuring it out yourself. Like I could take film classes and stuff, and it probably just wouldn't sink in. It's learning while you're doing, which really worked for me, and which, it's how I got into writing and stuff. Is in any art I've done or anything. It's figuring it out as I go along, because basically you're beholden to yourself. So you're responsible for yourself. So you're like, well, if I can't figure this out, then it just isn't going to happen. So you figure things out, and it's great to have resources, and it's great to be able to look up on YouTube and to ask friends and do all this stuff. But sometimes the best things you can do is just to look like at what you have and figure it out yourself. And that's the most valuable. And that was always how I learned, and that was how I got into filmmaking. Like, and again, like it's a much different level shooting on, a cassette tape for 5 minutes as a kid and trying to make a movie as an adult. It's, because it's like when we did our first convention, just doing it was enough. It was like, oh my gosh, how on earth did we do this? And everyone was like, how did you do this? You pulled something off that's incredible. And then trying to replicate it, and you can never capture the magic of that first time, with those things. But you take what you learned and you kind of hone your craft. And yeah, it's not the same, but it can be better, and maybe better in ways that other people don't see. It's like, you made your first little movie on your phone. Cool. That was super cool. That was a really good job. Well, you want to make another one. It's like, well, but I see the things like, oh, the sound wasn't great, so I'm going to get something to get better sound. Oh, the lighting wasn't great. I'm going to figure out, so I'm going to put a light over here, and I'm going to light it this way, and this wasn't working. And you just kind of, you master that craft. Doesn't mean you're ever going to be, a superstar filmmaker or a superstar writer or anything. But the more you do it, the more, as you know, it's like practice with everything else. You pick up, like, I was talking with a friend, you know, like, I don't know how to play guitar. Had I started trying to fool with a guitar at 15, 16, 17, 18, whatever, even 25, 30, 40, I would have been playing for all that time. And at some point, I'm going to get better and better and better if I keep playing. I may not be great, but I'm going to get better. You know, and if nothing else, like, I just finished a new book. And I'm going to hope it's better than the last one. And I'm going to hope that one's better than the one before it. And, you know, the hope is always that they're better than one another, because you're learning all the time. And when you have a passion for stuff, you always want to keep your radar up and to keep learning. And it's the drive that you have and the passion that really makes whatever the tools are at your, that are available to you. You find ways to make those work. Whether it's a quote-unquote kid's handy cam, or it's some expensive red, like, camera that you're shooting a professional movie with, whatever it is. You figure out how to work with what you have. That's why it gets frustrating with movies and stuff, is there's so much on that. I will say, you can tell that, I mean, there's always some manner of bloat somewhere because everybody's trying to get paid. But on that stuff, there's so many weird line items and stuff. And it's like, when you know, it's like, wow, you can make movies. Like, there's kids right now with their phone, with some programs they downloaded, either for their phone or on their laptop or whatever, that are making movies that you would see, and you go, how did they do this? And, you know, Hollywood blockbusters, that's on a much different level. But then part of you is like, is it? If these kids can do this, and you're spending $300 million on this, why does theirs look better sometimes? You know, it's the drive and what you want out of it and what you do with it. And again, for me, my friend having that PXL/Pixel 2000 was magic for us, and discovering that, and it was such an integral part of our friendship, and the filmmaking, and we did zines together, and like that, you know, zines are another thing that, like, you know, as if you're developing as a writer, zines are perfect, because you can kind of, your stuff you're personally, intimately invested in, you can write about. And physical zines don't necessarily exist anymore because it's just expensive. So you could do it. I mean, there's got to be ways you can do it online that aren't just like maybe as a PDF or something, but that aren't just like a website. So yeah, like maybe a PDF, but where there's graphics and there's this and that. You know, for us, it was cutting out pictures and pasting them in there. And again, it was such a visceral thing. It's how I, you know, get part of how I learned to write, how I learned to create, how I learned to. I worked as a cleaning person for an office, and I would use their copier to make copies. This is back in the day when nobody was really watching. No one was at the wheel worried about how many copies were being made. So I was just running off copies of our zine. You know, and ethical? No. Did you get it done? Yep. So yeah, man, like, I just wanted to talk about that. Like, it's remembering those days with the PXL, and it reminded me, like, there's just, you know, when me and my friends started podcasting, we got mics, USB mics that we plugged in, and we found an app, and we were making it work, and it's just USB mics at the time were just like very awkward, you know. And then I got like when I was started solo, doing this thing solo, I had a handheld voice recorder, and you can put it on a tripod, blah, blah, blah. But like, I was using that, and things have evolved, and it's just interesting. It's interesting to see that, and just, you know, how I've changed and how these things have changed me. And I hope whatever you're into, man, I hope you find your way to do it. Like, it's one thing for people to tell you how to do it. It's another way for you to learn how to do it yourself, and what works for you, because that's really where it comes down to. Is figuring out what works for you, because that's how you'll keep your passion, and you'll learn to do what you do better. Friends, I will talk to you soon. I hope you are well. Stay safe. You can find all my stuff at spookychris.com. My podcast, the Spooky Chris Podcast, is all around. You can look it up. You can find it on most of the streaming devicey thing, podcasty whatevers. All my books are on Amazon. Chris Ringler. That's me. You take care. Deuces.